find and oh,
No, no, please continue. Just louding, louding.
there's a bit. Yeah, I know. There's a bit of noise.
Yeah, you're out on the streets. Louding,
Yeah. What I was saying is,
you finally met Tibi. Tibi's here. Louding is with us here.
We already know each other.
I know that you know each other, but it's the first time that
Oh, okay.
you're connecting in the Wealth Transfer Initiative proposal, right? So, Flo, very nice to have you guys together.
No, we met here before.
yeah, I think we were there before once. Yeah.
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 So,
Oh, I didn't know we
Tibi,
had a person. I was
yeah.
I was ranting about. Yeah.
No, no, please continue, man, because it's very interesting what you're just sharing.
Yes. Yes. So yeah. So we're talking about nomad. Yeah. So we say that open value network culture is very nomadic, because we say, it's free access. So you can join a project and leave a project whenever you want, right? It's that of movement, and people should have attachment necessarily to a project, but rather they should go from one to another. So if I find a task here, boom, I do it. I use my skills here, and then I try to find another context where I can utilize my skills in the most efficient way. So I find another project and I go back to this project. So I always use this metaphor of projects as oases, that are just an assembly of resources that are there, you know, and agents as being nomad, going from project to project. Or sometimes I talk about pollinization. You go to pollinize a project, but you're like a bee jumping from one flower to another. But I never really conceptualize it as such nomadic. You see, as a nomadic experience. It's very interesting.
Yes, it's interesting what you just said because we can establish a lot of parallels there. First, we were talking, Lauren, how ethos doesn't relate only to tribal contexts or state-centric contexts. Ethos can be nomads. Ethos can be configured by how folks relate themselves with what they sort out as reality, and where they are being, where they are staying physically, let's say. So if you have something, you have a type of attractor force, like a project or like a skill that you want to develop, or like an endeavor, let's say, uh, you can create a unique ethos around of it. And that ethos will talk with other folks' ethos and those background great ethos of society as a whole, or organizations and things like that. And that's very interesting because what we were talking here, uh, 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 as you swing in, was how differs, how this is a very interesting frame to look at, because we are keen to look at things that are more sedentary and stable, and systematize it, right? Systematize it and institutionalize it, and establish ways that gives us more, let's say, a secure pattern of life, right? A more safe pattern of life. But in the long run, historically speaking, in the long run, we always have been uh, a changing agents, let's say, within nature and within our societies, within our cultures. So ethos in that sense is a very impermanent thing. It's not a sedentary thing. And we were talking about digital nomads, right? And my experience with digital nomads in the last 10 years, I know a lot of them. And it's very interesting to see how they float around uh, physical cities and contexts, but they never attach themselves to nothing. directly, right, in a profound and meaningful way. They're very superficial, and it's like a leaf in a stream of a river, right? It's like a leaf in a stream of a river. They just going, but they have their own interesting. So they don't net weave all over around things, right? Oh, I'm going to correlate this with this here. No, they network themselves. They propose and network themselves out in this stream of this huge river of flows, of convoluted flows, right? Convoluted flows. It's very interesting because they have a very low quality interaction. And this very low quality interaction doesn't really establish a footprint, doesn't really establish any type of footprint, but it generates an imprint, a cultural imprint that it's you don't see the sociological field, the anthropological field talking this about, let's say, because they only can look for the, let's say, long-term historical footprints of history in tribes and societies and things like that. That wasn't what we were talking here about.
I could also add something from my experience with Fab Labs, and then we can also touch the subject of wealth. I see the connection there. When I was um, facilitating a project in Montreal, this was 2013, we were trying to federate Fab Labs. We were trying to make Fab organizers, or I call them placekeepers, these people that are permanent and facilitate a Fab Lab and coordinate a Fab Lab. I was trying to make them understand that we should see Fab Labs as a infrastructure for this new economy, a place where collaborative entrepreneurs go and use resources locally and meet people, and then go to another Fab Lab that have different kind of resources. This reality that an entrepreneur needs various resources for doing what do. And just a second, let me close this. Yeah, and as a physical infrastructure, open and collaborative economy, these places, they have to act as a network of oases to allow these entrepreneurs to go freely from one to another. And we wanted to federate them. Just a second. We wanted to federate them so that we provide easy access for people. So I don't have to sign up and pay membership to 5 different Fab Labs if I'm a collaborative entrepreneur. So I was telling them, let's federate access. Let's pass per month so people can join all the Fab Labs at the same time, and then go to the Fab Lab that they want today based on their needs. And so I met resistance, okay, because the business model of Fab Labs is membership based. So within this capitalistic sedentary culture, they established a business model that is free. So since you paying your rent based on people pay membership, then your tendency is to keep them. The tendency is to keep them. Whenever you have a member, you want that member to pay access to the lab every month. You don't want him to go to another Fab Lab. And so to badmouth the other Fab Labs and have this tribal culture. Oh, our Fab Labs is better than others, so stay here, never there. Never develop an attachment with and develop loyalty to ours. You see, this sedentary culture, which was counterproductive, because I was telling them different maker spaces and different Fab Labs have teams specialize in different things. You know, some of them are about agriculture, some about electronics, some of them are about programming, you know, different types of electronics. Some of them are about mechanics and 3D, others about sensors. So I said, it's not to just create one community and try to tie people down, So we should have a past, okay, and an accounting system so that people can spend 2 hours here, 3 hours there, and if they pay $100 per month, we divide it according to how much people spend in one fab lab and another. But they resisted that. You see, they were into this competitive mentality, and they were trying to get people to stay rather than create an environment where they can freely move from one oasis to from one fab lab to another. And that was very. But again, I never conceptualize it as a as a nomadic culture that we need to nurture rather than a set one. I always saw it from this economic perspective. Oh, their incentives is to keep people because they're paying rent. And then, if you allow me, if you wealth, if you look at nomadic tribes, their wealth is not in the materials, right? Because they have to pack up and leave. But forms of wealth like reputation. So when you go from one little place to another, people have heard about you. People have heard because people talk about other people, right? So there is some sort of ethos also on top of this social asset, which is the reputation, the ethos of interacting with the place you go in a way that it's respectful, not destructive. I mean, because you're a stranger, you don't just go there and extract and go to the other places and extract and go to the other place and extract. The ethos is take care of that place because you come back later. You see what I'm saying? And establishes some sort of reputation for you to be accepted in all these places that you go.
Yeah, you see, let's extrapolate a little bit what you just shared with us. And if Lauren wants to share something before, it's okay for me. But come on, if you have something to say, Lauren, say it now.
Yeah, I
Okay,
was about to say I have Princess TV.
please feel free to ask.
Yeah, so I emailed you, TB, and the questions on my mind right now are how do you transfer an organization? Like, how do you decentralize your own power and empower other people to take up roles so that you can be kind of freed up to do stuff? And I know you're a good person to ask because I remember a couple years ago there was a conference, and I remember you kind of pouring up every single subject. You were on every panel and clearly super knowledgeable about all of these different aspects of governance. So I imagine you problems of like getting people to feel empowered without you being there.
Oh, um, well, it's not. It depends on the people too, because again, people don't. Some people don't have. I mean, that's also probably Vinicius' experience. Some people don't take initiative. Some people don't subordinate it, right? And there's one thing you can do. From my experience, there's one thing you can do, but things that you cannot do, like change people right away. um, first of all, if I think you have to, well, can do is to allow people, is to place the, to design processes, is to design processes so that you constrain actions within the boundary of the governance. Meaning, if somebody wants to take freedom, they cannot act in a way that they restrict other people's freedom. So once you design the processes in a way, then you can afford anybody can take initiative. And even if the individual
You skipped over this whole thing. Once you design these processes in such a way, which is the question that I'm asking. Well, how do you design these processes? What is that way?
yeah. So one example is that there are actions that are damaging. For example, being a document. Okay. So you can say to people, well, you have freedom to contribute to content, you freedom to write everything you want, but it wouldn't be okay if people delete documents. So then you design the infrastructure and the processes in such a way that people can actually edit, but they cannot delete. Or you place mechanisms that if it's possible for them to delete, then you can attach some kind of incentive not to do it, right? So this is what I mean by designing your processes to against transgressing rules. You see what I'm saying? So it's like offering everything that allowed and reducing the barriers to do that, making it harder to transgress the rules. So just set up that document in a way that it cannot be deleted. Okay, maybe the way you set permissions, you cannot delete that document. Okay, deleting a document is not about collaborating and participating. That's a harmful. So you can actually design your environment so that if they want to, they can't. Okay, which is restricting freedom in accordance to your governance. Okay, because some people don't understand the open culture, like some people don't understand freedom. For them, freedom is to go out other people. Okay, which is not good. So you can deal with people that don't have the culture of openness. Okay, and you can also deal with people that are there just to cause harm, like trolls. Okay, because there are people that do things by mistake, and there are people that do things intentionally to harm. So one example is that in the past we were giving people edit access calendar. That's another example. And then events of America would show up in the calendar, and people didn't know delete that event. They delete it for everybody else. Events were disappearing from our calendar. Okay, so I know that that was a mistake. Okay, I know that that was a mistake, and so you know, it happened many times that we had a meeting and then the event disappeared and nobody showed up because somebody had deleted it. So then you just restrict people's ability delete events, but they can create events. They cannot delete. The NRP was designed specifically with that. Going to the NRP into the admin, the way you can set up a user can and cannot do is very sophisticated. Every action that can the NRP can be set based on the role of users. So you can or cannot do something. For example, you can create a process, a task, but you'll not be able to delete it. Or another example is you can log time for you, but not for others. Okay, so the action of creating a record in the system saying that somebody has done work can be restricted just to yourself, or can be uh, set so that you can also log contributions for other people. So how do you set these permissions of actions in accordance to your governance that um, you allow initiative and diminish the probability that people make mistakes and cause damage, or diminish the probability control can come in and cause havoc in your community? But once you set up that, once you design the environment, okay, once you design that environment, then are people going to use the full ability they have to do what they're allowed to do? And the problem is, the question is, some people don't take initiative. So even if you, let's say, if you open the door of the cage, it doesn't mean that whoever is in the cage will walk out and wonder, you know, because people are maybe going back to nomadic and sedentary culture. Even if you cut the chain, some people are still going to stay around. You know what I'm saying? Because they have been trained, they have been trained to stay there and orders and wait for people to tell them what to do. So they have been conditioned to act and not to question or to take initiative. And so you cut their chains and you provide them a larger space, and they're not filling up the space because their imagination go there, because their personality, it's not made for that, and there is nothing you can do. Just time and repeating to people that do this, and hey, did you know that you could actually do it yourself? You know, you don't have to come and ask me questions. Can I do that? You know? And if you feel you're allowed to do it, it's most probably you can do it, because otherwise the environment would restrict you from doing it if we have designed it properly. So if you think you can go out and explore that part and there is no barrier for the chance is that you're free to, you don't have to ask permission to me or anybody else. And yet people are not taking that initiative on themselves, you know, because for who they are. But I think it's related to to what we're talking here. Some people are nomadic, people are entrepreneurial, some people are risk takers, um, and free spirits. Others are not, you know, and not because they're stupid. It's because they're, or because they're than other people. Um, Sometimes because they have been conditioned, you know, beaten up and conditioned to act like that in some other environments in their company. You know, they have been trained to execute. Um, and now, just to finish the idea, I think in open and collaborative organizations, there is fear of the initiator of the organization. There is the fear that if I send a message, people can take initiative and do what they want, people will do things. Okay, this is because they realize that they can engineer the environment to restrict action that goes against the governance. Okay, so just fine tune that tool so that it doesn't give access to delete or the event, or you know what I'm saying. And then you don't have to be fearful that people will do stupid things by mistake or because to. So it is a responsibility, the people that are creating the organizations, you know, to put these barriers in place, or to put a sign. Sometimes people say barrier is no good because barriers is like, I'm obliged not, but you can put a sign. It's the difference between a barrier and a signal saying please don't transgress. It's like you walk in the United States and you see private property, keep the fuck out. You know, you don't have a physical barrier, so if you really want to transgress that barrier, okay. but the signal says, well, you don't have permission to go here without asking anyone. So it's not a physical barrier, but it's a signal, right? You can use that too. You can use signals. You can use a pop-up, for example, and say, warning, this action might cause harm to other people. So be please consider if you're going there, and if you fuck up, then what happens is that you might have reputation problems, or you might be punished in some way. But it's up to you to do it. So you can choose to tune your environment. So that of letting people that fear of having people not make mistakes and cause too much trouble can be by engineering the environment in a proper way. And once you as an organizer don't have that fear, people don't feel that you're protective of the environment, so they can actually let loose a little bit more. And because even if you say, oh, please participate, but yet you're fearful, people feel that. There's non-verbal communication that you transfer to people. If Vinny has some other ideas here. Was that helpful? Or?
Yeah, certainly. I don't know if Lauren wants to deep dive a little bit more because I
Yeah,
have something.
I'd love
Yeah,
to know your thoughts on my question. Just how do you decentralize? How do you empower people to be able to feel and take initiatives and do stuff?
yeah. This is already happening in various ways as we speak here. Uh, I'm actually energizing, but not only energizing. I'm more weaving, net weaving. Uh, let's say three types of very different ways to decentralize. And in these three types, one is utopia, where actually this wealth transfer initiative is related to. The another one is called Tao Dao, uh, Tao from Decentralized Autonomous Organization, that we're going to talk a little bit today about. And the another one is called Chion. That it's related. It's initially a proposal to establish a movement around meditation, mindfulness, and all these this Western and Eastern techniques about human conscience, right? So I'm actually doing these three things, and in this sense, the type of let's say the key starting points for all of these three initiatives is first of all the cultural imprint. You see, Lauren, as we were talking here about how digital nomads they have their cultural imprint, it's very different from people that lives all their lives in the city or in the tribe. Uh, this is all about the cultural imprint. It's not about methodologies. It's not about governance. It's not about nothing of that. It's about relationships. It's about proximity. It's about first of all, interaction. You see, interaction is a very powerful force, and we are interactive beings, right? But uh, the nature of interactive is very chaotic by nature. So when we are interacting, we're not only interacting by language, we're interacting by signs, signals, we're interacting by our senses, right? So even if I'm not physically with you, Lauren, or with you, Tibi, we have the capacity to, let's say, not only to mirror ourselves, we have this capacity to mirror ourselves if we are open to energize, let's say, all our chakras or all our ways of interacting, right? So when you only use the rational mind to do this, the rational mind is a very potent one because it's in the rational mind that we cultivate our cultural habits. It's not in the intuitive mind. So when we cultivate habits of what we think is organizations, for instance, we tend to translate this as a reality. We tend to translate it as a reality, and and we tend to understand that it's universal. Well, if it's a reality for me, it's a reality for Lauren, it's a reality for Tibi, but it's not, right? So when we transition, when we exercise, let's say, the intuitive mind, when in a very empathically way, empathic and empathic driven way, it's interesting to see and to feel how how we transcend things, right? How you feel things differently. How you even if you're deep, if you're sick, let's say, in a physical context, uh, let's say in your room or in your house or in the city that you're living, you can really navigate between perspectives only by sensing them interactively, right? When you sense them interactively, you really change. I'm not going to say that you change your mindset, but you be excited with the perspective of changing it. You become excited with the perspective of changing your mindset. It doesn't change the mindset because mindset is a very, let's say, a very a type of cognitive prison, let's say, is a type of cognitive prison. But if you can permeate it, the borders of it, if you can turn it more suitable to be accessible by others' perspective, you become more intuitive, you become more interactive, you enhance your sensibilities to interact with everyone. Now, I'm not only talking about uh, our species as a whole. You interact with any form of life or with anything, right? Because we are mini machines or beings, right? We are already doing all sorts of meanings with everything, not only with life. So we do meaning all the time. That's why I say we're mini machines. We're always doing meaning of everything, right? So in this sense, when you're not, when you stop, when you're aware that you can really interact and peer in a very rooted and root way, interact with everyone or anyone. When you can interact with anyone and everyone without when you without a rational mind, but in a very intuitive way, in a very open way, giving access to your perspectives, uh, but not only in a dialogical way, but in a very sense interactive way. It's interesting to see how things, what emerges is configurations of various types of conviviality, right? And these various types of conviviality, they have the gist, they have the juice to sustain the relationship, to sustain it. It's interesting to see this in practice because I'm not making any type of theory here. I'm just relating to my practices, right? What I live in my life in daily basis, what I observe. So let's go to this experiment that I have been net weaving, right? Let's start with Taodao. Well, what happens? I've been talking with a lot of folks that I know that are very sensitive to these profound transitions that are in all kinds of ways that we're living, right? In all societies around the world. And they have the understanding that the fiat money that we use in our homelands, they don't have any type of future in their presence. I'm saying again, they understand that dollar, euro, real don't have, even crypto, don't have any type of future in their presence. They only pay the bills. That's it. So, so what they're doing? They simply gather. I was just proposing them. Well, let's treat the excessive, let's say, what you don't use to pay the bills as your idle monetary wealth, right? Let's treat this as your idle monetary wealth. And the guy says to me, "Wow, interesting. In, Instead of you investing this to generate more of this, investing fiat money to generate more fiat money, why don't you share it in a shareable fund where we're going to do an experiment? Uh, we're going to do experiment where people can have the opportunity to work in a very decentralized manner. You see, I'm not talking about pattern here. I'm talking about manner. So people will have the experience to work in a very decentralized manner, in a very interactive and peer-to-peer manner, but with any type of organizational framework, any type of governance organizational framework. That was my quest. That was my challenge. That was what I invited for, right? And folks felt, wow, this is great. Let's do this. So we started. We started with, let's say, in dollars would be $1,000 or 500 dollars, $1,000. Let's say we started with $1,000 in this shareable fund, right? And we began inviting people to produce regenerative content, right? We invited people to produce regenerative content and saying to them like this: well, here you don't have a boss, here you don't have any type of policy, here you don't have any type of regulation, here you don't have hierarchy, here you can really exercise your autonomy. But you're not going to exercise only, you're going to exercise your autonomy. You're going to have to exercise your intuitive, empathic capacity to look around and see what's happening around this proposal. What are other people's doing? So you're going to have the opportunity to exercise it in a very net weaving way, right? To see what folks are doing, to see what is the crux of the matter of what is happening. And astounds, it's impressive how this is a very strange setup for everyone. It's a it's a strange land setup. You see, when you do this invitation, folks almost, I'm going to say, between, let's say, if you invited 10 folks, 10 people to come and to be onboarded for this experience, I will say that two or three under, quietly understands it, and two or one really wants to surf it, really wants to navigate it doing this, because people are so conditioned by the rational mind, by the organizational framework, by all sorts of mechanisms that that regulates its free will, right? What is understood, what is being understood as free will, that they stay around, okay, Lauren, they stay around, but they don't deep dive it. They stay around, they gravitate it around the experience, they open a little bit, they put their heads up. Wow, this is fantastic, but I don't know how to do this. I'm so captured by my cognitive prison mindset that I don't know how to do this. So we have been doing empathic listening to understand how it's so difficult to do this. Why is so difficult? So this is one thing that is happening now. And nowadays we have around 15 to 12, 15 to 16, 17, 18 folks that are doing this experience. Well, in absolute numbers, this is nothing, we know, but in relative, wow, this is huge. You have 18 folks, 18 people, different peoples with different perspectives, with different mindsets, uh, doing experimentation where they are producing regenerative content in a very regenerative way, right? Respecting their time, respecting the time of the others, and they are having the experience to net weave themselves in this environment, right? Not in a very egotistical way, but in an ecocentric, not ecocentric way. So they are feeling the environment, right? They're exercising their empathic listening. They're exercising their empathic intuition. So it's very interesting to see how this is unfolding. And another thing is that if they need the fiat money to pay the bills, right, or to pay part of the bills, they don't need to request it. This is very interesting. They don't need to request it. They just do what we are calling a conscious access. Again, a conscious access. We call it a conscious access. So this experience to make a conscious access to the shareable fund is huge. It's a huge event for everyone. Everyone becomes emotional, becomes emotional. Some tears down, tears up, cries, they laugh, they rejoice. It's a cathartic event. It really is. It's impressive how we are imprisoned by what we establish as wealth, and where we establish a way of generating wealth, and how this is all tied up with this fiat money, scarcity logic driven mentality, right? So it's really interesting to see. Oh, by the way, as people is being involved, they are evolving, they are opening themselves to explore, right? They are co-creating the proposal of Tao Dao. They are really learning how to produce content, because some folks don't have the skills, let's say, to produce content, let's say. So this is a learning environment too. So it's a free learning environment. So it's interesting to see uh, how how this is unfolding, and interesting to see uh, how they are earning what the let's say the token that we created, we co-created, called Tau token, right? But you earn it in this way, as you are being, or you involving yourself, you're co-creating the environment, you're materializing, let's say, the contents, the regenerative contents, right? You issue for yourself, again, you issue for yourself some Tau tokens. So in this sense, you do the issuing. It's not an algorithm that does the issuing. It's not a third party that does the issuing. It's not a regulation. It's not a governance that does. You issue the Tau tokens. So in the end, if you have sufficient Tau tokens, and you feel that yourself is very ingrained in the environment, you do your conscious access. And guys, this has happened huge. I'm impressed, really impressed, how this is working, because folks are so tired of what the actual status quo of what we call wealth, what we call money. They're so tired. They are so exhausted, even because the pandemic catalyzes this, right? And they really open themselves for this experience. And this is Tao Dao, so I can talk about the others, but I think I just shared the juice and the gist of it with you folks. Oh, by the way, Tibi, Tao Dao is on Discord, so I'm going to share. It's all in Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, but I'm going to share for you folks to see. So here we are. We have here, let's say, 18 and 20 folks now active, 12 folks active here right now, and we have 73 that is not, 73 that is not. So we have here the welcoming channel. We have here the shout outs, what's working. We have Taodao framework here. We have the onboarding. We have the shareable fund. We have the conscious access. We have the roles that you can energize. We have all the things that's being co-created as a commons, right? Like images, like music, like videos that is co-creating like commons for everyone to access if they need to do the productions. You have the tokenomics, you have the mappings, you have the distribution proposal, you have the internal evolution, you have the network regulation, you have the free zone for learning all sorts of things. You have what we call, oh, I forgot to say this. How can you produce a content in the Taodao's environment, right? Well, first you have to propose it. You have to establish a proposal. You have to propose it and share it in one of the sinks of Taodao's. Taodao's doesn't have meetings, does have sinks, right? You don't have meetings, you have sinks. So folks comes and show the proposal, and the folks that I think that you know are very acquainted with the concept of open space, right? So the sinks are open spaces. So folks comes in this sinks open spaces. They see the proposal. If they really love it or like it, they really feel that they want to see that content being produced, right? They do what we're calling people backing. So they people back it. So in the sense that, oh, I will do this. I support and I activate and I want to do this proposal. So we do this very interactive, very organic, very fun, because it's a very fun sync. It's not something formal, right? It doesn't have statistics. It's big data, is warm data, as we know it, and folks makes the people backing of it. And interesting that they really relate to the proposal and they really start doing it. But as this is a decentralized environment, it's interesting to see that one does much than others doesn't does, but the others that doesn't do something to materialize something very, let's say, specific, right? Skill specific to do the content. They do what is very interesting and very powerful and very important for the Taodao environment. They do the movement to expand. So they invite other folks to come in the weekly onboarding syncs where we talk about the Taodao's proposal. And some of them, wow, this is fantastic. I want to people back it too. So they people back it. So they become part of this decentralized, let's say, organism or organic organization that doesn't have boundaries. Is not those folks, you see, are the folks that are doing it. So it's very interesting. So we have what we call portals, is those is the co-initiators that started with me the proposal. So they with their YouTube channels, with their podcasts channels. We have what we call orbitals that are content producers that wants to have this decentralized experience. So they have to come with their proposal. They have to have this experience of people back it for everyone to become a orbital. And here they go. We have 4 orbitals. We have Aldea orbital, OCAST orbital, Tibi, Livre Fluxo orbital, and we have Terra Vila Local orbital. So here we are. And here we're what we call vibrationals. Vibrationals is those content producers that they are vibrating in the same empathic, let's say, regenerative spectrum, right? So anyone can come here and put, whoa, I just step on a content producer that I think that it was going to be nice to invite this guy to be part of Tao Dao's environments. Oh, really? Oh, let's talk with him. So folks put here all the content producers that they know that is having very interesting experience around regenerative movement, regenerative culture, and that's it. And here is experience that is very much alike Tao Dao's, but it's not like Tao Dao's. And folks comes here and puts all the experience that they see that it's is related, has some relations to Tao Dao, like let's say seeds from Haifa DHO. So here you go, you have seeds
Yeah.
here. Oh, that's it. So, man, forgive me. I extrapolate a lot, but was necessary to try to really share with you what experience we are having here in doing this cultural imprint, right? And how is this is very, this is a very complex, not systemic. This is a very complex peer-to-peer rooted experience. Interactive rooted experience is not a systematic one. We're not systematizing nothing here. So that's it. I shared it. Well, I don't know if I made myself understandable, but that's it.
It's interesting, and at some point I think I would like to dive into this distinction between not being system, but being more like experience driven, because I am as an individual more on the rational side, more on governance infrastructure, you know what I'm saying, structure. Building structure so that the structure drives behavior, then being a space for experience to develop. But I don't, experience in your field. So this is the complementarity that I felt between your work and my work from the beginning. I will have a comment when you on what you presented. We don't use the word permission, proposal. Sorry. Because proposal in my mind refer to permission. I'm putting up a proposal and I'm waiting for people to in some way or another allow this action to happen. And I think that feeds this mind of being free in an organization. So instead, what we say is free initiative with ability of others to raise a red flag. So the America is go ahead and do it. You don't have to ask permission. You don't have to make a proposal. There is no proposal. But what you're required to do, you're required to leave a trace. You're required to tell to the community, I am going to do this. And that is early on. As soon as you start, as soon as you have the intention and pose the first action into that direction, you have to announce it. I'm going there, so that other people can analyze, okay, what you're trying to do, and in case they see harm, they can flag. In which case you're obliged to pause, and then we discuss. Okay, and that person that raises a red flag, there is a responsibility. You can't just raise red flags. You control the community by raising red flags everywhere. Because it's a signal to pause the activity, the initiative, it is a very restrictive action. So raise a red flag, you have to explain what is the damage that this causes and propose at least an alternative way to achieve the goal, so that it doesn't cause any damage. You can't just say this. Okay, that's not a red flag. That's an opposition. Okay, so the red flag is a very well-defined activity. Okay, saying please describe the harm and let other people analyze and see if they're okay. And please, if the intention is good, please describe another way to do it for that person. Give him another mechanism to do what the person intends, but in a way that doesn't cause harm. And if things get very complicated, then we can go for a lazy democracy vote. But usually we have never gone there. So this is how we operate, because I have the feeling that when you say proposal, it gets into this permission culture. You see what I'm saying? Maybe in a very subtle way, it triggers that part of the brain where people have to submit to the will of the majority somehow. You know?
Yeah, but in this case, it's not the will.
It's also the
This case is not the will of the majority. Is what who wants who shows up in the sinks in a very open space way. So it
okay.
doesn't need approval
Yeah.
of the majority, and there's no backing down. Let's say the people backing dynamics, because everything everything is baked properly, because if we have even two people that wants to do this, it is happening. So it doesn't have any type of restrictions or red flags or
Okay.
nothing like that. But I understand you, Tibi. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Louding, would you have some what you think about all of this? Because it's I think that we have some middle ground between what Chibi just shared and the very welcoming critique that he just did, and this actual experience that's occurring. And I have so much to share about it, but as we are in the top of the hour of this 11th touchdown here of the Wealth Transfer Initiative, it would be nice to hear you.
Oh yeah, that was actually very helpful. Tiberius, what you just said about the red flags and just people, you know, uh, so that people can feel free to take initiative. And you might want to check. I think I probably already sent you this, but you know, I did do a this kind of thing, this kind of quest uh, format for documenting, uh, you know, projects that I've done. People, if they care to, can see event by event. Like we had this, you know, meeting here, and here's a summary of it. Here's my initial hypothesis, and here's where my hypothesis changed. And so it basically gives a timeline that you can browse in 5 minutes, or you can spend dozens of hours going into fine detail to see exactly where things may have gotten off course and stuff like that. And so that those might be complementary things. And Vinicius, what Tiberius and I have been developing is the idea that each kind of organizational structure is developing its own innovations, and they become super powerful when you start combining them. Like Tiberius had a part to what I've been developing. You put them, it's like, oh wow, it just becomes like to see how you know that with you and what you've been doing with the Tao Dao, this stuff, seeing how they come together in really powerful ways. That's where I think, you know, because we do each produce this these amazing little things, and it's so hard to get that out of the organization into another organization.
Yeah.
And like we don't have mechanisms for exchange, knowledge exchange.
Yeah. I'm also very interested to see. Can we join Tao Dao, just soak in that environment for a while and see how it's unfold?
Totally, my friends. But it's all dialogue there is in Brazilian Portuguese. So I
Oh
will have
yes.
Ah,
I,
ótimo.
yeah, I will have to be translating all the dialogues for you or transensing it.
Yes.
Yes, it's
Interesting.
going to be
The
nice.
language barrier.
Yeah, but
That's okay.
you
For
Wow.
see,
me, I can
but
follow
but
enough.
you folks, you two folks can start the English version, let's say of Tao Dao. Why not? We can just like fork it, pick up all the cultural imprinting, and we can open or we can open a channel in English, right, where folks can come and just put their impressions there and share it, and we can with time establish an English version of it uh, in Discord. I don't know what you guys think, because would it be a nice way for you to really make a dive, and with time make a deep dive and better understand the intricacies of how this is very refreshing and how is been very meaningful for everyone that has been involved with it. So as a proposal, I think, Tibi, you see, Tao Dao is part of the Wealth Transfer Initiative. So it's part because, of course, I'm the co-initiator, but because it's part of what we're looking at, right? How to establish a way to transition from this actual way of generating wealth in another way to generate wealth in a very peer-to-peer and regenerative factions, right? So would be nice to have you folks on board in this. We could start with a channel in English, and we could grow, we could we could evolve to become a whole new, let's say, Tao Dao relational environment for in English. What do you folks say? I don't know. I'm just we could put Kiko Lab there as a channel. We could put Sensorica as a channel. That is interesting. We could put we could invite folks to share their idle wealth and establish a new shareable fund, and we could have this experience between us. I think this is gonna would be a very nice kick starting point. Oh, by the way, Danilo King, that is here now with us. Danilo King is the co-initiator with me of Taodao. And I was talking, Danilo, about the Taodao experience with Tibi and Lauren. They are fascinated about it, and they want to have their experience, their Taodao experience. So I was actually saying that is all actually is in Brazilian Portuguese, right? But we can have a channel in English, and we can start from there, or we can simply fork the cultural imprints of Taodao and open a new Discord server in English of Taodao. I don't know. We're just discussing this as you arrived here. And Athus, pleasure to see you here, my friend.
Mhm. You know what, Vinny? I talk often in terms of bridges between networks, and because if we say my time is limited, so I'm afraid that I cannot commit to a full, or very meaningful um, uh, commitment, in that context. But what it would work with me would be, like you said, have a Sensorica channel in there, which is like um, a wormhole in space, where it's like a door in space that teleports you to the Sensorica planet, right? And people from Sensorica could go there and appear in the Taodao planet. Through that portal, we can have some meaningful exchange. Right? So people that go in Taodao, they see the Sensorica thing and say, "What is this?" And then they click there, and wow, they see something slightly different. But interface. So we discuss
Yeah.
things that overlap, right? So let's say, for example, in a project, I have a problem, and I know people in your network are tuned to an aspect of that problem, like you say, the experience, the human side of it, right? So I can see that source and go there and pose that question, like, Vinicius, Danielu, how do you see this? I'm struggling with this in Sensorica, but cannot look at it from your perspective because of your experience, you know? So if we establish this form of bridges, there can be flows that are more used, flows that are very specific to some problems could touch on organizations. You see what I'm saying? Rather than me committing to an activity for Tao Dao, which I think it will not happen because my limitation of time, you know.
That's great. That's huge
And that
news.
formal bridge can be, that can take many, formal bridge can take many forms. But what I mean by a formal bridge is something that it's not just relational. I know you, and if I have a problem in Sensorica, I think, okay, Vinicius is tuned to these things, and go and ask him. But that's me because I know you. So it's a relationship between us that is not visible. It's not formal, so it's not visible to any in Sensorica. Tao Dao is not a resource in Sensorica. It's not a point to go for other Sensoricans. It just relies on my knowledge of you and your knowledge of me. You see, so by formalizing the bridge, what I mean is that we create a link um, that is formal, that is structural, so that it doesn't depend on anymore. If you and I die tomorrow, Americans will continue to interact with Tao Dao. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
if tomorrow, that link is cut. you know? You know, that's what I mean by
Totally.
formal bridge. But it could be anything.
What a
Yeah.
wonderful insight. What a wonderful insight. What about you, Lauren? Let's make a wormhole between Tao Dao and Kiko.
Yeah, this is what I think. It'd be so nice, to have from Tao Dao around, because this is each organization makes their own innovations, but you actually don't know what innovations you're making are of value, just like people themselves, what their special gifts are, because often the innovations that you make that are the most valuable to other organizations, you don't even realize them because they come so naturally to this group of people convened that they never see it as like something that they've actually done, because they just do it without even thinking about it. I I mean, I think it would be nice to have like actual people around kind of watching and being say, oh my god, you idiots, like we do this so well, here's how we do it, like we don't even have a problem with this because we Brazilians just we do in this situation, like we got this covered. That's what I would love.
Yeah, I think in that sense it's about Tip said, like being like, let's say, open source, right? And having the open source access. For example, yesterday I'm working in some things that I showed one of my friends, and I like showed him because he's one of my friends, and the next day he said, take a look on the things that I've done. Like he made some really nice designs, and and I'm sure it was just because um, only after he knew I was doing something, and only after he saw he was able to propose something. And I think exactly what Tip says, and in that sense, for that to happen, I think two things should happen, and the first one is share information in an open way. We have to share this information in an easy way, so that everyone can access and have their own ideas. And two, we have to have some kind of incentives people have to have some kind of motivation to go out and check projects that are not theirs, and at the same time help. In my friend's case, the motivation was that he's like Tibo have his motivation with Vini. So I think these two elements, we definitely can maybe have people by their own will or by their incentivized will, checking out our project and seeing how they can contribute.
Well, definitely, if we could form some federation where we could eat like each organization in the federation could enhance their own collective intelligence by like 10 times what we are experiencing right now by adopting innovations of the other organization. But it's just like what I was talking about before. It's like the sharing, that's because you can't just make it, and it's more of a thing where you need to actually see people and what they're, and they might not even know that they're struggling with it. They might not communicate. They might even not know that they're having a problem with it. And someone comes around and looks at them and think, "Oh my God, like this is way harder than it needs to be." Like we do the what steps we do in 2 steps,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you think, "Oh, well, just like be open, publish it," that doesn't mean that anyone's going to find it. And it doesn't mean that anyone's going to find it at the moment where they actually need it. I think we need
Yeah.
to take more steps to um, be able to be there when and help when the help is needed.
Yeah. So if you have incentives, it would be nice. Like, um, one thing that I am doing now, with Igarata Labs, is there is a we have this Igarata school model where we to incentivize people to learn some new things while paying them. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting paid to study, and one of the fields that we are starting with is on Web3 consulting, especially in the of modeling and tokenomics, basically,
Mm-hmm.
because we have one of our friends who is an expert in it. He's, I don't know if you know block science, but he's one of the lead researchers in block science, and he's involved in many projects, and he's Brazilian. And now we are mentoring a few people
Mm-hmm.
um, for this new space of science, we could say. This friend of mine, he's with Gitcoin. He's basically helping Gitcoin with their crowdfunding. He's helping Filecoin, and
Who?
this friend of mine who is going to mentor the some people uh, will be helping us in some specific projects. So we have this person that will be paying to be mentored, basically, and
Okay.
and the idea is to do this mentorship in a open way. There is this group called Token Engineering, and whoever wants to come and join and see what is token engineering, what does how do you build an ecosystem, how do you um, transform an ecosystem flows and stocks in math equations, all this stuff. It will be open, so we will have the mentorship, like a live stream mentorship sessions,
Mm-hmm.
which in somehow talks to that way of, while we're doing that, if there's anyone who wants to just come and tell, oh, this you can do that, because this friend of mine, does a lot of live coding, because he's super smart. A lot of people want to see him work, how he works, so he does a lot of live coding and doing a lot of live things. So this is something that we are doing, um, and maybe it can be some kind of model of how people interact. Because, for example, if every interaction is live, and not every, but some interactions are live, and people know that they are live, there will come people who want to learn, right? Because I think this could be an exchange of of course I can help you with, instead of doing 20 things, you only do 2. But my incentive maybe here is to learn something from what is going on here as well. So maybe this can be some kind of exchange, like working in a live environment, we could say, and having people join or not, however they want. Of course, they would not be able to interact directly, but they are able to watch and text and comment and things like that.
Maybe we could think of it like a federation as a pot where we can specify what we're bringing, what kind of offering that we would bring. Like I know at Kikola, we're a laboratory, so we do a lot of and people are actually used to doing like stuff, and so you can just kind of throw something out there, have a bunch of super smart people be like, okay, there's chaos, we'll make sense of this, and that's okay. And so if we each did that, then we would be incentivized to like have all these access to all these, know what an organization actually brought. So yeah.
I'm actually implementing these ideas. I'll send you a link later.
Of course you are.
Doing some structural changes of the Sensorica's environment to allow these. Cool. This has been very productive.
Nice.
Yeah, I would like to.
Go
No, I was saying that I need to. I need to a project because there are some activities that I have to do in my agenda. Yeah, this has been productive. So I'll do some a link later and see how we could maybe build this bridge between Taodao and also with Lauren, how to connect Chicolab also, because we've been talking about it but never really did something formal.
Yeah.
Yes.
And folks, as we're ending here, but I would like to introduce you guys to Athus. Athus is a friend of mine. He's dev,
Oh, okay.
and
Hey guys.
yes,
Hello.
and he's doing a very wizardly thing. He's making the transition from Web 2, the corporate Web 2, to the decentralized Web 3. And he's learning a lot of things, and he's sharing his knowledge with all other devs that are related to the other projects that I am involved, like Utopia and Igarata Labs, as Danilo just shared. So, Athus, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit for folks to get to know you, it would be a nice way to end up this 11th Wealth Initiative touchdown. So feel free, man.
Okay. My name is Art. I'm from here, from Brazil. I'm a developer and a musician. So I always love art and human expression. So I think I would like to reproduce this organic system as life in programming, in how we do the things in the real world, and programming and developing, it's making sense to me. And so I'm participating from Tao Dao. That's it. That's make these connections, as you say, Lauren, to connect these people, we can connect. And I think that's very important, really, because there's a lot of people making some regeneration movements, but it seems to me they must connect themselves. And I think that's it. That's the path that we're on it.
Nice.
I'm
Well,
I'm glad to meet you.
Yeah. Be very welcome. We have this weekly meetings at Fridays, right? It's not a meeting, it's a touchdown, is a gathering, is encounter, not actually a meeting, but it's a sync, let's say. And it's a pleasure to have you here, really, because you're doing a fine job in bridging. Tibi loves this expression, in bridging what is folks that are actually in the Web 2 corporate environment and going to transcend, not only to transition, but to transcend to the Web 3 decentralized environment in a very beautiful way and manner, right? And Lauren, my dear, before we all go here, would be nice to establish this, let's say, these formal bridges, these wormholes, having as initial environments all the three environments, Kiko Lab, Taodao, and Sensorica, and let's see what happens. Let's see what grows. Let's see what evolves. Let's see what we can learn with each other. But it would be nice if you guys get a grip about the conscious access, as I was talking for you earlier, because this is something that we can already establish right from the beginning, right from the beginning of this mutual experience that we're going to make via Discord, right? And what is this actual conscious access to this shareable fund, right? How can this work in a more grand way, right? In a more open, not that Taodao is not open, Taodao is totally open, but it's very interactive, very organic, but it doesn't scale up in the sense that we understand scaling up, right? It scales up by aggregation, by interaction, by resonating in the same empathic frequency. So it's going to be nice to see how this unveils and this unfolds. So that's it, my friends. Love for you all. Very nice to have you here, Athus. Very nice, Danilo, that you could have made it. And very nice to have Lauren, Kiko Lab, and have Tibi, as always, my good friend of Sensorica, sensing everything, right? Well, that's it. If you have any last words, we can wrap this up. We can go.
It's good.
Thank you. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice
Thank
to
you very
meet
much. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
you. Thank you.